There are moments in life when what cuts the deepest is not the pain itself, but the silence that comes with it. The silence of not understanding why things keep going wrong. The silence of prayers that seem to bounce back unanswered. The silence that feels like God has gone quiet. And it's in this silence that so many come close to giving up. Because when there are no visible signs, doubt creeps in. You start wondering if you're even on the right path anymore. Life feels like it's at a standstill. It's as if everything is frozen in time and nothing is progressing. You look around and see others thriving, achieving, smiling, and there you are, unmoving, as though stuck at a deserted station where no trains arrive. And that's where the danger lies. In believing the silence means abandonment. But is that really true? If you're in that season now, where dreams have been shelved and your faith feels choked by waiting, maybe, just maybe, you're exactly where God does his most powerful work. Because it's behind the curtain that he shapes his greatest vessels. Jesus, the Son of God, spent most of his earthly life away from the public eye. Before the miracles, before the sermons, before the cross, he lived 30 years as a carpenter. Have you ever wondered why? Why would God choose to keep hidden the one who came to change the world? Because there's a strength that is only forged in obscurity. A kind of faith that grows only when no one is clapping. A kind of courage that can only be learned in the ordinary, unremarkable routine. Perhaps that's the season you're in now. A time when your efforts go unseen. When no one applauds your dedication. You give, you pray, you try, and yet it feels like nothing shifts. But listen carefully. This season is not being wasted. It is rich soil. God isn't punishing you. He is preparing you. Think of a fruit-bearing tree. For weeks, for months, it grows beneath the surface, hidden from view. Its roots push deeper and deeper, silently anchoring themselves. And those roots, unseen, are what will hold up the weight of the fruit when the harvest comes. If you try to rush this, if you disturb the ground too soon, the tree will topple with the first storm. You are that tree, and God is establishing deep, strong roots within you. Perhaps that's why things appear to be standing still, because He's more invested in building your inner strength than putting you on display. How often have you longed for instant miracles? For clear signs? For immediate breakthroughs? We always want what's quick, but is your heart ready to hold what you've been asking for? If God placed in your hands today every dream you've been chasing, would your emotional structure hold up? Some blessings only arrive after the process. Some answers only come after the silence. And there is a type of faith that blossoms only when the ground feels barren. Right now, in this place of waiting, of obscurity, of unanswered prayers, God's gaze is fixed on you. He sees you. He knows how hard you've been fighting. He's aware of the sleepless nights, of the inner struggles that no one else knows, of the fears that hide behind your everyday smile. And even if you don't feel it, He's there, working, shaping, sharpening your faith like a blade for the day of harvest. Do you ever feel like you've fallen behind in life? Like the world is moving ahead and you've somehow been left out? That kind of comparison can be harsh. It ignores your unique path. It knows nothing about the weight of your cross. It can't see the battles you fight within. And most of all, it forgets that God doesn't run on human clocks. His timeline isn't measured in calendar days or years. Your journey is unlike anyone else's. Joseph spent years in prison for a crime he never committed. Forgotten, rejected, disgraced. But when God's time arrived, he stood before Pharaoh in a single day. What once seemed impossible came to pass in just a few hours. But those years of isolation, of quiet obedience, of tears shed in a dark cell, they were what equipped Joseph not to lose himself in the palace. The same is happening with you. God is preparing you. Maybe right now, everything around you feels like too much. Perhaps your whole being is crying out for you to give up. Maybe you've been asking yourself day after day if it's truly worth carrying on, worth the effort, the fight, the faith. And it's in these very moments, when giving up seems like the easiest path, that staying becomes the most important choice. What feels barren today might simply be waiting for God's voice to say, "Bloom." And when that moment comes, when life finally blossoms, it will be so breathtaking, so vast and beyond your imagination, that you'll finally realize the wait was not in vain. So today, I urge you to take a deep breath and keep going, even if it's just one step at a time, even if you're moving through tears, even if it all feels senseless right now. Choose a single moment in your day, however small, to reconnect with God, It could be as soon as you wake, before you sleep, or even during a break at work. And in those moments, open your heart to Him. Tell Him what hurts. Admit you're weary. God is not shocked by your struggles. He welcomes them. And He replies, not always in spoken words, sometimes through stillness, but always through His presence. You may not see it now, but He's here. In the silence. In the process. In the unseen roots. Quietly working so that, at the right time, the tree of your life will bloom and bear fruit that will feed many. Don't give up. What you believe is the end might just be the start of something divine. And when it happens, because it will happen, you'll look back at this very moment with tears of gratitude. You'll thank God you didn't give up. Because He never did. He is still unfolding your story. And it's far from over. Have you ever felt like your problems are too large for someone as small as you? Ever looked in the mirror and thought, I'm not enough. I can't do this. This is too much. Maybe you were taught that courage means being fearless, that faith means never doubting, that strength means never trembling. But none of that is true. The greatest figures of faith in history trembled. They feared. They doubted. And yet, they moved forward. That's what makes their stories powerful. Not because they were flawless, but because they chose to keep walking even when every part of them wanted to stop. Take Moses, for example. God called him to free an entire people from slavery. And Moses' first response? To list his weaknesses. Lord, I don't speak well. I struggle. I'm not eloquent. In other words, Moses was saying, God, please pick someone else. I'm not good enough. How often have you echoed that to yourself? How many chances have slipped away because you didn't feel equipped? How many life-changing paths did you avoid because someone once told you weren't worthy? David was a young shepherd, forgotten even by his family, when he was called to face a giant. No one had faith in him, not even the king, who tried to dress him in armor that didn't fit. But David understood something vital. His strength wasn't in swords, titles, or gear. It was in God. And with just a sling and a stone, he overcame Goliath. So, reflect for a moment. What's in your hands today? It may seem ordinary. It may appear insignificant. But if it's held in faith, it's more than enough. You don't need to have everything, know everything, or master everything. You just need to believe that God can do wonders with the little you hold. Then there's Elijah, one of the greatest prophets ever to live. He stood against kings, challenged false gods, and witnessed fire descend from heaven. And yet, after a single threat, he ran into the wilderness. He sat under a tree and begged to die. Lord, that's enough. I can't take any more. What a contrast. A man who had just experienced an extraordinary miracle, now completely broken, wishing for the end. But God didn't scold him. Instead, God sent an angel. He gave him food. He gave him rest. Because even the strongest stumble. Even the anointed grow weary. Even the chosen feel drained. And God understands that. He isn't asking for superhuman strength. He's simply asking that you don't give up. Maybe today you feel just like Elijah, worn out, drained, isolated, or like Moses, filled with doubt, or like David, dismissed by those around you. Yet in every one of those situations, God never changed His plans. He didn't turn His back, nor did He seek out someone else. He stayed. He brought strength. He gave ability. And through ordinary people, He carried out extraordinary things. You might be waiting for that feeling of readiness to finally arrive before you move forward. But what if I told you that the step must come before you feel ready? That true courage doesn't show up when fear is gone, but rather grows right in the middle of it. How often have you stopped yourself from sending a job application because you were certain you stood no chance? How many dreams, ideas, or university courses have you let go of because you assumed no one would believe in you? How many times have you taken a rejection as a reason to quit when it might have actually been an invitation to try again? Think of J.K. Rowling. Long before the world knew her name, she was out of work, struggling with depression, and raising her child as a single mother. Her manuscript was turned down by 12 publishers. 12 rejections. 12 voices saying her story wasn't good enough. But she didn't give up. She held on to her belief that there was value in what she had created. So she kept going. That story, written in a modest cafe with hardly any money, became one of the most celebrated book series in history. And what about you? What did you set aside after hearing a no? How many rejections have you accepted as a full stop when they were only meant to be a pause? You don't need to be fully prepared to take the first step. You need to take the step to realize you might already be more prepared than you think. Fear might walk beside you, yes, but it doesn't need to take the lead. Let God take the wheel, and simply follow where He guides. Be like David. Go with what you have. Move forward in your own way, with your weaknesses, your scars, your hesitations. Because God isn't looking for perfection. He's looking for willingness. So here's a challenge for you. Over the next 3 days, choose one area of your life where fear has been holding you back. It could be starting something new, asking for help, rebuilding a broken bond, or stepping into change. And take a single step. It doesn't need to be big. Just something meaningful to you. A sign that you're choosing movement over paralysis. A decision that says, I won't let fear be louder than my faith. And when fear comes, and it will, remember, you are not alone. You are walking a path that once carried Moses, David, Elijah, and many others we look up to today. They shook, they wept, but they moved forward. And because they did, they left something that echoes through generations. So can you. You too can shape a new chapter in your life. No matter how many times you've thought of quitting, this day could be the one you choose to keep going. Because heaven isn't waiting for your perfection. Heaven responds to your faith. Even when it's small, trembling, weary, it is still faith. And that is enough. There's a kind of pain we can't put into words. The kind that lingers quietly between breaths, while we wear a strong face for the world. It's the pain of betrayal by someone we trusted most. The ache of loss with no chance to say goodbye. The heartbreak of fighting hard for something, only to watch it fall apart. And often, that pain brings with it an emptiness, a sense of being wronged, of being forgotten. It makes us want to cry out to the sky, "Why, God? Why me?" But the truth is, the answers don't always come straight away. And still, God is near. Because there is meaning in the suffering we endure. It may seem senseless now, but one day, it will make sense. Joseph was sold into slavery by his own brothers, betrayed by those of his own blood. He was thrown into a pit, sold off like goods, dragged to a foreign land, falsely accused, and jailed though innocent. His years were filled with silence and sorrow. If you had seen him in that cell, you might have thought his story had ended there. But God was still writing. Hidden between each line of pain, a purpose was being formed. And when the time was right, everything shifted in a single moment. The prisoner became a ruler. The outcast became the deliverer of an entire nation. Everything that once felt like punishment was, in truth, preparation. Have you ever stopped to consider that the pain you've endured is shaping you for something far beyond your imagination? That the isolation, the silent tears, the unseen effort, all of it might be building the strength you'll need for something far greater ahead? It's not just about what you've lost. It's about what God is forming within you, even when it feels like everything is being stripped away. When He allows pain, it's because it carries a divine assignment. There are people who will only encounter God through your journey. There are lives that will be transformed the moment you share how you made it through. There are hearts waiting to be healed by hearing you say, "I've been through that too, and God carried me." But how could you offer comfort if you never knew heartbreak? How could you stand beside someone in the valley if you've only ever walked mountaintops? How would you speak of faith with conviction if you'd never had to trust Him in the dark? This pain that seems meaningless right now is birthing something eternal. It's shaping a testimony that will echo beyond your own lifetime. Not one tear goes unnoticed by God. Every single one is counted, and each one will be transformed into something greater. But when we're in the storm, all we see is the chaos. What we often miss is that above the clouds, the sky remains blue, and God is still in control. Do you remember Nick Vujicic? He was born without arms and legs. He suffered constant bullying, fell into deep depression. He even contemplated ending his own life. But it was through this very pain that he uncovered his life's mission. Today, he travels the world sharing a message of hope, inspiring people who, like him, have felt ready to give up. What the world called a limitation became a stage for the power of God's grace. He could have hidden away. He could have gone silent. He could have given up. But instead, he chose to let his pain become his mission. And what about you? What are you doing with your pain? Are you allowing it to freeze you in place? Or are you letting it shape you into someone new? There's no shame in weeping. No shame in feeling overwhelmed. No shame in having doubts. The only mistake is giving up before witnessing what God is still preparing to unfold. Because what you see as a wound, He can turn into a scar, and scars are proof that healing has taken place. That it hurt, yes, but you made it through. And if you've made it this far, it means you've survived. Maybe right now your heart feels shattered, and you can't find meaning in the struggle. Perhaps you're whispering, "I can't do this anymore." But let me remind you, Joseph said that too. So did Elijah. Job, who lost everything, also cried out for answers. And yet, none of them were forgotten. Not a single one was left behind. And neither will you be. This week, I want to challenge you to something. Choose a quiet day. Sit down with no distractions. Write down what you've been through, the grief, the losses, the moments where you thought you wouldn't make it. And next to each one, write what it taught you. What changed in you? What strength was built? What resilience was birthed? Because doing this will help you realize that, even without noticing, you've grown. You've matured. You've become stronger. And that's grace. That's purpose. One day, maybe sooner than you think, this pain will turn into a story. And that story will reach hearts you've never met. Because that's how God works. He takes what the world calls failure and makes it a testimony. He takes pain and turns it into a vessel of healing. He takes what's broken and makes it a conduit of His glory. Not because you are powerful, but because He is. And He lives in you. So don't give up. Even if everything around you seems lost. Even if the pain is screaming loud. Even if you feel alone. God is crafting something eternal within you. And when the moment arrives, and it will come, you'll look back and see that none of it was wasted. That every struggle was shaping you into the person you were always meant to become. Because today's suffering is the foundation of tomorrow's divine purpose. And when that moment comes, you will look back, tears streaming down your face, and whisper, "Now I see it clearly. God was never absent. All along, He was preparing me." Have you noticed how quickly we are to punish ourselves and how slowly we allow ourselves forgiveness? It only takes a single stumble, a misstep, a relapse, and suddenly our minds scream that we're no longer worthy. That we've let God down. That we've drifted too far. And that heavy sense of unworthiness starts to grow, spreading through our hearts like a storm cloud, until it begins to whisper that maybe it would be best to just stop. To give up. To disappear. To stay quiet. Because surely, how could God still believe in someone like me? But that's where the love of God defies every human expectation. He doesn't see the way we do. He doesn't love the way we love. And He doesn't give up the way we give up. Remember Peter? He wasn't just a follower of Jesus. He was one of His closest companions. He once declared with boldness, "Even if everyone else walks away, I will never abandon you." Yet it took just one night, a single evening of fear, confusion, and uncertainty, and Peter denied Jesus. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. 3 denials. Despite everything he had witnessed, all the moments he had shared with Christ, Peter still failed. He sinned. He betrayed. And what did Jesus do in response? He went to find Peter. He sought him out. He reaffirmed his worth. And he placed in Peter's hands the calling to tend and guide his people. Jesus didn't search for someone more reliable. He didn't pick someone with a spotless history. He didn't look for someone emotionally stronger. He chose the very one who had denied Him. Because God doesn't define us by our worst moments. He defines us through His grace. And that grace reaches even the most hidden, broken corners of our soul. Maybe that's where you are right now, feeling miles away, carrying guilt, frustrated with your choices. Maybe you've stepped away from your faith, stopped praying, turned your back on church, cut ties with those who once helped you draw closer to God. Perhaps you've fallen into things you swore you'd never touch. And now, looking at yourself in the mirror, you hardly recognize the person staring back. But listen, God still sees you. Not as a failure. Not as someone too far gone. But as His child. His beloved. Someone He cherishes deeply, for whom He gave His very life. You might have changed, but His love has not. You might have turned away, but He never moved. He's still there, waiting. Like the father in the parable of the prodigal son, standing at the edge of the path, eyes fixed on the horizon, longing for the moment when his child returns. And when he sees him, he runs. He embraces. Restoration doesn't demand explanations. It simply asks for honest repentance. A heart ready to begin again. How many times have you felt that you'd gone too far? That the mistake you made was the final straw? That surely now, God would give up on you? Maybe that's exactly the place you're in today. Wondering, is there still a way back for someone like me? The answer is yes. There always is. Because the cross of Christ wasn't a one-time opportunity. It's a daily invitation. A gentle reminder that fresh starts are offered with every sunrise. Have you heard the story of Joyce Meyer? She endured years of abuse at the hands of her own father. She grew up wounded, haunted by trauma and confusion about her worth. For a long time, she felt filthy, unworthy, far too damaged to be of any use to God. But one day, she made a decision to believe that grace was deeper than her scars, that God's love was more powerful than her past. And today, her voice echoes across nations, bringing healing to others who once thought they had gone beyond redemption. Because when God restores, He doesn't just mend the heart. He reshapes destinies through stories of redemption. And you? Will you keep hiding? Will you keep allowing your past failures to define your future worth? Or will you rise and declare, I am not what I've done. I am who God says I am. Because that's the truth. You are more than your lowest point. You are more than the thoughts that try to condemn you. You are a masterpiece in the hands of the Creator. Even if today you feel shattered into pieces. It could be that the first move you need to make is to forgive yourself. Perhaps it's time to stop punishing yourself for past mistakes and start opening your eyes to the future that is still waiting to be shaped. The past cannot be changed, but your future can be redirected by the hands of God. Take a step, even if it's trembling, even if it's through tears. Pray, even if it's been ages since your last prayer. Speak to God, even if you believe He wouldn't want to hear from you. He does. He always has. You're not lost, you're being sought after. And if these words have reached you now, it's because God is softly whispering into your soul once more, I still want you. I still have plans for you. Do not abandon yourself. Because God hasn't. He never does. And in that endless love, you have permission to begin again. As many times as it takes. Because grace is not measured, and neither is hope. If you've made it this far, it means there is still a flame burning inside you. It might be dim, it might be flickering, but it's still alive. And that means something. It means there's still life to live. Despite everything, you're still here. You're breathing. Your heart is still beating. A heart that has been broken, wounded, overlooked, and yet continues to beat. That alone is a miracle. Take a moment and look at yourself. So much has tried to hold you back. So many disappointments, so much loss, so many sleepless nights, so many moments where everything felt too dark to endure. And still, you moved forward. You got here. Maybe not steadily. Maybe you stumbled. Maybe you dragged your feet the entire way. But you came. And that reveals a strength in you that you don't even realize you have. And it shows that God has never let go of your hand. Life may have taken much from you, people, dreams, directions, but it never erased God's gaze from your story. Maybe you've forgotten how to pray, but He never forgot you. Maybe you've had days where your faith crumbled, but God has never stopped believing in who you could become. And now He calls you, gently, not with demands, not with conditions, just with open arms and eyes full of mercy, saying, my child, come back. There is still so much I want to do in you. Maybe no one's ever told you this with honesty, but hear it now with every fiber of your being. You matter. You are needed. Your presence is missed. The world is aching for the light that only you can bring. Your story, with all its pain and falls, might one day be the answer someone else desperately needs. You are not a mistake. You are not a waste. You are a miracle, still unfolding. And even if no one's held you close in a while, even if no one's truly asked how you're doing, even if you're carrying invisible wounds no one seems to notice, know that God does. And He doesn't look at you with judgment. He sees you with compassion. He understands your weaknesses. He knows the private battles you fight and the tears you swallow in the dark so no one will see. You don't need to be flawless to be loved. You only need to be sincere. And if all you have to offer today is a shattered heart, then bring it just like that. God crafts beauty from broken pieces. He is the master of turning ashes into life, wounds into healing, shame into dignity, and you will witness this. Because your story doesn't end here. Believe it, lighter mornings will come. Genuine laughter, embraces that soothe, new beginnings filled with peace, and you will experience it all. You'll look back and understand that the darkest days were never your end. They were the process. They were the nights that watered the ground where God planted something sacred. And what's starting to grow inside you now is faith, is life, is promise. Don't give up. Please, don't give up. All of heaven is cheering for you. And so am I. Because you deserve to live every part of the dream God has had for you since the beginning. And you will. You truly will.